All lead generation is not created equal. And for you as an established expert, you need a lead generation strategy that specifically targets high end clients without filling your pipeline with more unready or unqualified buyers because your time is valuable and it shouldn't be spent wading through the sea of leads that will never buy. So, in this episode, I'm going to show you our proven two-phase approach to creating a lead generation strategy that gets you high end clients without churning through hundreds of leads or spending countless hours or dollars on strategies that only get you cheap and unqualified leads. Now, get a pen and paper or your notes on your phone app because we're going to move quickly through all the details that turn typical lead generation on its head. So let's get real. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. I am so excited today to chat with you because, in order to understand why we do the things we do and why it's so effective at creating the right leads in your pipeline, I first need you to understand the key factor that makes our approach to lead generation vastly different than other strategies. Now, a lot of the lead generation strategies that you're being taught right now are under the impression that if you just get more leads, that will turn into more conversions. But what we understand is that getting the right leads that are actually ready to make purchasing decisions, you're going to get a better quality and level of clientele that is going to surpass the ability of having just a lot of people on your list. So rather than filling your list or audience with non buyers, we focus instead on understanding how to speak to people who want to make purchasing decisions. That means that we're not using the tired old strategies you've been taught before that just focus on cheap leads, things like running quiz funnels or having challenge ads or doing things that are just bringing you a large quantity of leads but aren't actually converting, because ultimately we need to look at it as a process that brings all the pieces together. So, what we're going to tackle today to really break down what it looks like to bring in high end clients is looking at that front end part of lead generation and the key factors that help us achieve that. So, first, we're going to talk about what we call intent targeting. This is the gateway to getting better leads. Next, I'm going to talk to you about what it means to create self qualifying marketing systems. This is that automated approach to having qualified and ready buyers making it to your calendar. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the intent triangle formula. This is our proven and proprietary process for how we actually fill your pipeline with high end buyers who are happy to pay you, even if they met you yesterday. Now, the reality is, lead generation is a hot topic. Everywhere you turn, people are talking about it. So much so that we see people obsessed with the idea of generating leads without really acknowledging the fact that there's a strategy behind really leveraging strategic lead generation, bringing in the right people into your business so that you're actually getting qualified candidates and people who turn into high paying clients. And we keep it real here. So, my goal is to show you what it looks like to create strategic lead generation, the kind that actually brings in high paying, high end clients. And a reminder that leads are just one small piece of the puzzle, and they mean absolutely nothing if you don't actually have a process for converting them. It's like having someone come in and hit a brick wall when you don't actually have a process that brings in that opportunity for them to make purchasing decisions. But since you're here, you've probably listened to enough to know that you already do have a process for converting leads, and you just need a better approach to getting leads and more of them. And that's evident by your high conversion rates on your sales conversations. I want to be seeing that on your sales conversations, you're seeing a 50% or higher conversion rating. So, knowing that, let's start by busting some typical lead generation myths. Number one is this idea of chasing quantity. As someone who has actually generated 1,124 leads from a single post, let me be the first one to tell you that quantity means absolutely nothing in the lead generation field. Now, I know that's not what everyone else on the internet is telling you, but that's why we keep it real. Hundreds of unqualified, unready, or wrong fit leads are just an expensive problem. I want you to think about it just like we don't want 50 booked calls on your calendar just to have to convert 2 clients. The same rules apply to your leads. And not only is this a frustrating process, but it becomes expensive on the back end because those leads are sitting on your email list that you're paying for. It's the time, effort, and energy that you are applying to you or your team actually trying to nurture and move them. And it's taking up space that doesn't need to be taken up. Now, the next is that cheap leads do not equal good leads. Would you go to the Dollar Tree to buy a diamond ring? Of course not. Cheap leads aren't actually cheap because leads that don't convert or take ages to convert are just taxing on your resources. And the last but not least, the one that got under my skin the most was that somehow we've been taught that paid leads are better than organic leads. We've been told that scaling organic lead generation is impossible. And I don't know why, but a lot of big name gurus talk shit on organic methods. I personally found that it's because they either think that organic leads are not sustainable, meaning that the algorithm changes make people think that getting leads organically is impossible and something that you can't keep up long term. But the truth is, ads change and organics change and in person networking changes. It all changes. It's not about beating the change, it's about understanding the psychological core factors that never change, regardless of algorithms and ad networks and everything else that happens. It's about building a strategy around the sustainable factors that actually are timeless. And the other reason is that most people don't understand how to consistently generate leads organically, but I'm going to change that for you and explain to you exactly how you can do this. And a quick caveat, focusing on getting better leads before you try to get more leads is absolutely pivotal to the success of your business. It's an expensive lesson that I spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn. Focus on getting better leads into your pipeline first, testing that and really being able to do that, and then moving into scaling that strategy. So let's start by talking about intent targeting. This is a game changer for my clients because it kind of reverses everything we've been taught about actually targeting clients in our industry. And I'll say this till the cows come home, but targeting will absolutely be the leading driver to a successful lead generation strategy that brings in high end clients. Think of it this way, it sets the tone for your entire marketing and sales process. If you get this right, your marketing is simple and lucrative. Get it wrong, and you're spending more and more of your resources trying to hack the process. And here's the tough love that nobody really wants to hear, but everyone needs to, is that I've spoken to tens of thousands of people, and 90% of them have a targeting problem, even though they say they know their ideal client. When we think of targeting, we look at what it really means to speak to somebody who actually wants to make purchasing decisions. So let's dive into it. Your social media content, your masterclasses, your articles, your ads, your podcasts, your YouTube videos, all of those things are all an amplifier of your message. You've heard me say this before. That means that if your messaging is working and it's speaking to the right person, all of your marketing tactics will simply amplify that message. But if your messaging is targeting the wrong person, then it's going to amplify that. It's why that video that went viral for you or the influencer shout out that you got didn't turn into paying clients. It was because you weren't targeting the right people. Notice that I said the right people because, yes, there are right people when it comes to getting high end paying clients. So let's define what makes them the right people. The entire premise of your lead generation system needs to be flipped upside down. The common idea has always been that you just needed more people. More eyeballs equals more sales, more followers equals more conversions, more leads equal more revenue. And this concept is broken because it looks at lead generation as that singular puzzle piece instead of seeing it as the first stop on a conversion journey. You want leads that value you and your services. You want leads that don't waste your time only to say that they have to hold off or right now is not the right time. You want leads that jump at the opportunity to work with you, and you want leads that buy. The key to getting high-end leads that buy is having a lead generation strategy that's set up for people to make purchasing decisions. Right now, you've likely been taught two things that are repelling your high-end leads. Number one is demographic targeting. Choosing this ideal client kind of arbitrarily. We've all done dozens of those ideal client exercises that have us arbitrarily decide who our ideal clients are by filling out demographics and psychographic questions in an attempt to define our person. And it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. We're just guessing at who our ideal client is based on some random facts about them. It's not about having a list of features like blue eyes, a doctor, and 30 to 40 years old. That sounds more like a dating profile than a way to target your next client. You've been focusing on the wrong factors that make your ideal client ideal. The demographic targeting you've been taught is totally broken. It's saying that someone with certain demographic characteristics like age, gender, education, occupation will have common interests and preferences. And that's like linking that everyone who likes yoga is going to be into Tony Robbins. It's a faulty process that leads to searching through a sea of people to find a few right fit people. Now, the second biggest thing that we're doing that repels premium clients is pain point marketing. Creating messaging and marketing that speaks to people and their pain is just pushing on them, right? It's pushing on their pain points until they cry. It's like pouring salt on an open wound. And the reasoning behind both of these factors is that they were used as a way for us to target people who had a struggle that we could solve for. And they were failed attempts at targeting because they were looking at how to create specific messaging because specificity sells. The problem is specificity only works when it's targeting the right person. Let me say that again. Specificity only works when it's targeting the right person, someone who actually wants to make a purchasing decision. Otherwise, you're left working hard to try and push people to that state of readiness. It's like trying to get a snail to run a marathon by painting racing stripes on it and yelling, on your marks, get set, go, and thinking it's going to go somewhere. It just doesn't work. You can attempt to push people to a state of readiness and assume that if you speak to a specific audience and you're niche enough in your messaging that people will want to buy somehow. But it's an uphill battle and it's costing you time and money. So instead of focusing on a random niche, an ideal client that was built out of features and demographics of what you thought the right person looked like, now instead, intent targeting focuses on reaching people based on their intent to purchase or make a decision. So rather than looking at a set of demographics or features or what people look or sound like, we're looking at what it actually looks like when someone has intent to make purchasing decisions. So it involves identifying those individuals who have certain behaviors or signals that specifically indicate their interest or readiness to make a purchasing decision. Demographic targeting is like casting a super wide net in a vast ocean. You're trying to just catch a variety of fish based on general characteristics like species or size. Intent targeting instead is like fishing with precision. It's using this specialized lure to attract specific fish in a particular location based on their behavior or feeding habits. You can see that intent targeting is the key to getting better leads. You can focus your efforts on speaking to people who have intent to make purchasing decisions instead of wading through a pool of leads that are either not interested, not qualified, or not ready. It analyzes and takes into account the distinct behaviors and actions of people who are actively seeking solutions. So, unlike traditional demographic targeting, which relies on those broad demographic categories, intent targeting hones in on specific signals and actions, enabling you to tailor your messaging and your offerings to address users' immediate needs and their preferences. This means you're not only generating higher quality leads, but you're fostering more meaningful and relevant interactions with potential customers, ultimately allowing you to drive better results within your business. So instead of targeting female doctors and therapists 40 plus who are struggling with self worth issues and adding leads to your list who just sit and wait, you're targeting it people who have an intent to change. You're speaking to women who are making a life leap in their relationships and are tired of dating the wrong men on all the apps and want a life partner. We're looking at the intent and we're speaking to the intent they have and creating hyper specific and movement based messaging. The difference is huge. We're able to understand what drives them in that action that they're in. And I'm going to break down for you exactly what it means when we leverage our intent triangle because there's three core things that play a role in being able to identify that intent-based language that drives in the right type of people. So when you do this, the difference becomes huge. You end up with leads in your pipeline who want to be sold to. They want a solution and they're willing to pay for it because they've already made a decision to get a solution. No convincing, no dragging on your part. Your marketing becomes easier and more directed. You capture better leads who moved to a yes within hours, days, or weeks and couldn't be more grateful for you being the knight in shining armor that they've always been looking for. Intent targeting is the first phase of a sound lead generation strategy that brings in high-end leads. So now that we know who to target, let's talk about how we target them that moves them into action. Now you understand the importance of intent targeting and how this sets the tone for bringing in the right leads. Now it's time to talk about how to leverage marketing systems that get your leads to self qualify themselves. Now, why do we need self qualifying? When you're in scaling mode within your business already has so many moving parts. You're sending DMs, you're setting up new offers, you've built the funnel, you have your team that you're managing, you're looking at new opportunities, you have collaborations, you have so many moving parts within your business that the last thing you want to be doing is manually qualifying your leads. You want leads to enter your world and know almost immediately that they're in the right place or not. And the reality is, your entire marketing system has systematic checks and opportunities for your leads to self qualify and self sell themselves. This is what allows you to automate much of the conversion process. So let's look at it tactically. Let's say right now you're using other people's audience. So in our case, we use Facebook groups to be able to bring in new leads into our world. And you're using strategic content marketing to drive new leads into your pipeline. Now you have multiple checks for qualification. Check number one is that your traffic driving content has a very specific message that's targeting your ideal clients and speaking to their very specific desire. Check two is your opt in. Now, your opt in is creating congruency between those two things and ensuring that they're in the right place and calling them out directly. This is your opportunity, again, to ensure that people are coming in with the right intent. Check number three is your DM conversation. So maybe within that process, once they've opted in, you're having a DM conversation with them to, again, allow them to self qualify themselves through that process. Check number four is your conversion system is actually taking them through that, allowing them to see for themselves how this would work for them. Check number five is your call pre qualifying process that allows them to, again, make sure and really have that assurance that they're in the right place. And check number six is your post booked call qualifying process. So, again, you can see that every step within this process is riddled with messaging that targets, qualifies, and moves people through your process. Now, from a tactical standpoint, you have set your leads up to feel completely assured that they're in the right place and in the right hands to make a quick decision. And almost all of the things that I shared above can really be automated, removing the need for you to actually do the heavy lifting. And from your standpoint, you're guarding yours and your team's time by ensuring that there's multiple qualifying checkpoints along the way. Now, nestled within that process is having a decision infused system, a content system that's moving people through your process and anticipating their natural decision behavior. Think of it like your brain's buying GPS. It signals the key turns, the stops, the detours that get you to your destination as quickly as possible. Something as simple as deciding what to eat for dinner tonight is actually a complex series of checkpoints that our brains go through in order to make that simple decision. So while we may only pay attention to us going from I'm hungry to let's get chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A for dinner tonight, our brain is actively moving through a set of questions that help us identify if the outcome is safe and desired. So let's look at this in real time using an example of being hungry to try and get to the outcome and resolution of what next step to take. So you start with I'm hungry. And the next thing that our brain is naturally doing is looking for, well, what should I do next? And it says, we have ground beef in the fridge. Next is the kids have lacrosse practice tonight, and I have to get my podcast done. We won't have time to cook before practice, but we just had Mexican food a few nights ago and we need to eat less carbs. And Joey, he needs to eat more protein before practice. What's on the way to the fields that's quick and has a lot of protein? There's a Chick-fil-A or a McDonald's, and McDonald's upsets Jazzy's little tummy and never seems to fill him up anyway. Okay, let's go to Chick-fil-A, skip the fries, and just get nuggets and lemonade on our way to the fields. Your brain just processed a series of micro decisions that answered key questions to get to the outcome of going to Chick-fil-A and getting nuggets. This is mimic decision making, and it's what allows leads to move through the decision process, self qualifying and nodding their heads yes throughout your whole entire marketing system. But let's take a step back and look at the central factor within both intent targeting and self qualifying marketing systems. It's that messaging formula that drives action that I mentioned before. This is what we call the intent triangle formula. Now, intent consists of three core parts. There has to be a need, a desire, and action. Need is simple. Do they have a known need for the solution that you're providing? So, as a copywriter, that means are you speaking to people who have a direct need for a sales page that you offer? Now, desire and action are the pieces that most business owners skip because they don't actually understand it. Now, the next question we want to answer is, does the person and subsequently your messaging address their desire for change? Now, just because someone has a need doesn't actually mean they have a desire. And desire is what elevates you from speaking to people who are unready to those who are eager to solve their problem. So in weight loss, it's the difference between speaking to someone who you know needs to lose 30 pounds but seems barely bothered by the weight and speaking to someone who's been agonizing over the 30 pounds they want to lose before next year's high school reunion. Desire drives action. The more we can identify the specific and known desires, the easier and more magnetic your messaging becomes. Now, action is the motion that they're already in. Now, most people speak to people who are at a standstill, people who are maybe mentally checking the box that, yeah, I want to change, but they're not actively acting that out in their day to day lives. This matters because if we want to speak to people who don't need to be pushed, but are actively seeking and attempting to solve their problems, then we eliminate the need for pressure tactics and coddling inside of your programs because these people come ready to do the work. So when we look at what it means to actually create intent and speak to that highest level of intent, it's understanding their needs, their desire, and their current state of action. So, an example of someone being in a current state of action, let's say that you're a life coach and you work with people who are making a big life change in their career. Now, what you would do is speak to what their current action might be. So maybe right now they're putting out resumes or, they're hiring a psychic to try and help them direct the next step. That's the action, the momentum they've already built that we want to speak to because it's going to further identify that version of our highest intent leads. Now, need, desire, and action is what makes up the intent triangle and the messaging formula that powers your lead generation strategy. This is the power behind the EZS method. It takes into account every piece of the puzzle, taking into account that when people make decisions, they're looking at it holistically. It allows you to have a process that allows you to bring in high-end clients on repeat and be able to serve those clients at scale so that you can get back to a life that you actually love. And it breaks down to three core factors. We start with what we call our innovative gap methodology. This is your ability to be able to create high intent messaging that speaks to people who are ready to take action and then positions you as the innovative authority that nobody else can compare to. This is the difference between trying to chase after leads and having leads that chase you down. Our clients are able to 5 to 10x their prices and have clients who line up happily ready to pay them because they know that they're the only solution for them. Step 2 is what we call our bingeable authority system. This is where we take mimic decision making and apply it to an automated conversion system, allowing your leads to move through that buying process without you needing to handhold them every step of the way. This is what allows you to get your leads to sell themselves, leveraging the Netflix effect. And the third and final piece is actually being able to deliver on the promise that you've made. Your business is dead in the water if you're not actually able to deliver on the promise that you make to your clients. And ultimately, it's what allows you to create pure profit in your business. Because when you're able to have clients who are shouting from the rooftop about the incredible results they've gotten from working with you, you're no longer needing to market as hard because they're doing all of that heavy lifting for you, while also allowing you to take a step back from always having to be on within the delivery system of your business. This is the power behind the EZS method and why we've been able to help over 416 incredible industry leaders be able to scale their business and get their life back while getting their leads to sell themselves. And as always, I want to invite you into that next step of your journey here with us. If you're ready to see how we can apply the EZS method within your business so you can have high-end clients banging on your digital doorstep, asking how they can work with you, I want to invite you to book a growth optimization call now. On this call, you and I will look at your core process of what it looks like to acquire clients. I'll show you exactly where your biggest opportunities are and how our EZS method applies in your business specifically to get you the results that you desire. You can book that call right now at ezsleads.com/call. If you want to learn a little bit more about how the EZS method works and how we can get your leads to sell themselves using the Netflix effect, I want to invite you to check out our mini series over at ezsleads.com. This will walk you through our entire EZS method and how the system has been able to drive massive results for our clients, allowing them to 2 to 3x their revenue year after year while actually enjoying their lives again. So again, head on over to ezsleads.com to check that out. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and you've been able to see the power behind having a lead generation strategy that actually sets you up for success from the very beginning rather than constantly trying to chase or fix the problem as it happens. And as always, I'd appreciate if you could take just 1 minute today to head on over to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with a friend so that we can help turning this into a movement so that your business becomes a movement of change around the world. So until next time, here's to keeping it real.